welcome to our 2020 annual membership meeting. We're so glad you're here and we're so excited to share what God has been doing through Visalia First this past year. If you're a voting member, you may have received a packet in the mail similar to this. I'd like to take a moment to go through the contents of that packet. There's a letter that explains the contents as well, with some information as to contacting our office if you need further information. Also in the packet is our 2019 annual membership minutes. That's a condensed version. If you'd like an extended version, go ahead and contact our office and we'll get that to you. Also included is a slate for our Board of Directors 2020. You will be asked to vote on that at a later time. Also included is our bylaw resolutions 1 and 2 with a copy of the bylaws attached. For your convenience, you will also be asked to vote on that as well. Also included is a membership brochure. I'd like to draw your attention to the number snapshot. We had an update. Recorded salvations were 746 and water baptisms were 164. The final thing that I wanted to draw your attention to was this self-addressed prepaid envelope with these ballots attached. If you and your spouse are voting members, you would have received 2 sets of ballots, but only 1 envelope. If you are a voting member and you are single, or maybe your spouse is not a voting member, you would have only received 1 set of ballots with just your name on it. If you need further clarification, go ahead and call our office and we'll be happy to explain. Again, there are the ballots. Once you fill them out, go ahead and put them back in and mail them to our office. We will be accepting those ballots up until Thursday, April 23rd at noon. With that, we're going to go ahead and get this meeting started. Welcome, Pastor Mike.
Hello, everybody. Pastor Mike here. Welcome to our 2020 annual membership meeting online. This is the first time we've ever been online, and there's a reason for that. We're in quarantine. So our church is 93 years of age this spring, and here we are. We're online for the very, very first time. I'm going to be leading this entire time. You're going to hear some financial reports from chairman of our board, our Robert Martindale, our CFO, but I'm going to invoke a rule here at the beginning. It's called the suspension of rules. It's a common procedure that is used by the House of Representatives when they're trying to pass non-controversial items and they need to suspend the rules to get something passed that is non-controversial. So we don't have any controversial issues at hand here. We're going to give you some reports. I'll be the best parliamentary I can, but as I said, we're a one-man show. The House is empty, and you have been given a packet. Marcia has introduced that to you. You will be voting by mail. This is all brand new to us. You should be watching me online, and I hope that I make it clear enough to where you can make it easy to vote, easy to voice your opinion. And so as we get started, let me start off with a prayer. Father, help us. We thank you because your hand is upon America, hand is upon the world, your hand is upon our church, and your hand is upon this coronavirus. And we thank you again that this too will pass and that no more lives will be lost. Your will be accomplished in supernatural fashion. Help us in this time that we have over the next few moments to pass the baton to the next generation. And as we pass that baton to the next generation, may our ceiling be their floor. May they stand upon our shoulders and be able to propagate the gospel until Jesus comes in ways we never even dreamt. Lord, we ask you to help us. Bless our time together. In Jesus' name. Everybody online said amen. So, well, as I've said, we're doing a suspension of the rules, and I want to remind you that there will be some things that happen in this meeting that does not necessarily happen in our other meetings. I don't have all the board members here that I can have them stand up and you recognize who they are. You'll be looking at a slate in just a moment. We'll cover that. Many of you know that we have multiple staff. We have 13 pastors, and they're not in the room with me, so I cannot introduce them to you. So we got a lot of great directors around here, and you know a lot of those guys and gals, but I can't have them stand up and let you know who they are. So I just want to say a big thank you to all of those who serve our church. Many of you who are listening are voting members, but we have a myriad of serving members, and thanks be to God for all of our serving members who have served this church well. We would not be where we are today had it not been for our serving members. So I want to call the roll. We have 523 voting members at Visalia First as of today, April 2020, 523 votes. So we will need 131 ballots to pass one of these resolution modifications or to approve our slate. So, and once again, that will come, these ballots will come to us through the mail, through an envelope that we have already sent you. So, we're going to start with resolution number 1, and you should have it in front of you, but in case you do not, I want to draw your attention. Many of you were sent the Constitution bylaws. This is a part of the bylaws. We never change the Constitution. We only alter our bylaws. And this is in Article 2, in a section entitled Management of the Church. And if you look down through there, you will see that our church government is built around the policy governance model. And you see there was little change there. You see Section 1, policy governance. You see Section 2. That is our concern on this resolution right here. And we want to amend this resolution, or we want to amend this bylaw. So you have a resolution in front of you. This is what we're calling resolution number 1. The board of directors, referred to as the board. Let me read just a small section. The board function as overseers of all corporate financial matters related to the church. The board shall be committed to the purpose of the mission of the church. There shall be a minimum of 7 directors serving a 3-year term. Now, this is where we are asking you to help us amend this already approved bylaw, and you have it highlighted in the document before you in yellow. It's calling for 7 directors serving a 3-year term, but 3 of those on the board of directors which will serve will be from the elders committee, 3 of which are elder committee members, following the nomination process per the board committee structure policy found in Policy Governance Manual. And the rest is pretty much standard. Basically, let me explain what we're trying to do here. Last year, we voted that we would change our trustees and our board of elders. We combined the 2 and come up with the term board of directors. This year, we're asking that that board of directors consist of a minimum of 3 people from our elder committee. This is a resolution that has been set forth by our current board of directors. They, as well as I, are feeling it imperative that we have a spiritual influence on our board of directors. We didn't want to look up one of these days 20 years from now and all we have on our board of directors are lawyers, doctors, teachers. We really wanted some people of the elder material. Elders are those who are in charge of the spiritual oversight of the church. Elders are the ones that help us find spiritual direction, and they're almost pastor types, and they give us a real good flavor. So the intention of this resolution that is before you is to add those 3 elders in order to add that spiritual component to our board of directors. So there you have it in front of you. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to pick up your white ballot, which says resolution number 1. If you are for adding 3 or having a minimum of 3 of the board of directors to be elders, circle the yes. If you think that's a bad idea, go ahead and circle the no. And you can put that aside because we're going to ask you to do 2 more ballots, and then we're going to ask you to mail those in that self-addressed envelope that we gave you. Incidentally, once we gather all of these, you've been given a due date when all of these are supposed to be in. And the last weekend of April, I will be given a report in the services, how it came out. I'll give you the numbers, if it passed or if it didn't pass. So I want to close our business on resolution number 1. You do the voting, and you vote as best as you know how on that. So the second resolution that you have in front of you, you should have a yellow ballot called resolution number 2. And resolution number 2, it has to do with the property of our church. I want to draw your attention into your bylaws once again to Article 6 entitled Property. And you know there's 1, 2, 3 sections of that. Section 1, all property of the church shall be deeded to the church in its corporate name. Section 2, no real property of the church shall be bought, taken, otherwise acquired, sold, transferred, mortgaged, leased, assigned, conveyed, encumbered, or otherwise alienated, unless the same shall have been authorized by 2/3 vote of the voting members present at an annual or special meeting called for that purpose. In section number 3, the lead pastor and corporate secretary of the church shall certify that the same has been authorized by a vote of the membership. Such certificate shall be held to be conclusive evidence. Okay, that is as it currently states. But we're asking you to vote for a couple of changes in Article 6 entitled Property. And the first change begins with section number 2. No real property. As you see highlighted in the document in front of you, we have added this line, except for property described in section 4 below. Very simple. There's not much that we need to do with that. But section 4 is really the crux of this resolution that was submitted. And let me read it, and then I'll give you some explanation. Section 4, property, this is new, property gifted to the church and valued at 200% of Tulare County average housing value can be sold by a majority vote of the board. Gifted properties included residential properties and commercial properties. I know that may be confusing. Property, I'll read it again, section 4, property gifted to the church and valued at 200% of the Tulare County average housing value can be sold by the majority vote of the board. Gifted properties include residential properties and commercial properties. Let me give a little commentary to this because we, in the midst of our All In campaign, we had a couple of people who wanted to donate property to the church. One wanted to put a house in their will and give it to the church. Another was contemplating giving a rent house they had to the church. We were not able to receive those properties under our current bylaw structure, because it basically says if we acquire any property, it's going to take 2/3 vote majority of the congregation. So in order for us to have received any property given to the church, we would have to call the church together and vote in order to acquire that property. Our church board of directors felt like this was an outdated piece of bylaw, and this is the verbiage that they came up with. And let me explain the verbiage. Property gifted to the church and valued at 200% of Tulare County average housing value. And let me explain that to you. The Tulare County average house right now will sell for approximately $235,000, $250,000. So 100% of that would be $235,000 or $250,000. We put 200% in that, which basically said if average house will sell at $250,000 at the time of someone trying to give us a piece of property, 200% would mean we can receive or dispense of a property of $500,000. A $500,000 piece of property can be acquired or can be dispensed of by our board of directors without us having to call for a meeting. So there you have it in front of you. I know the language may be difficult to understand, but basically Section 4 is what we're asking you to vote on, and I hope that I've made it clear that property valued at 200% of the average value of a home in Tulare County, we can receive as a board of directors, or we can dispense of it. We have a couple of properties that the church owns. We have a couple of business offices in town, and they would probably sell for $250,000 or $300,000. If we got a good buyer on those one day, we would love to sell those. But this allows the board of directors to sell those properties without having to come to you. So basically, you should be at ease, because we cannot sell the Walnut property without a 2/3 vote. We cannot sell our 20 acres. We cannot sell the acres property. We cannot sell or receive anything over the amount of approximately $500,000. So I let that rest. Now you have your yellow ballot in front of you. Your yellow ballot, if you are in agreement of giving your board of directors the authority to dispense, transfer, sell property as stated in the resolution before you, say yes. If you think that's a bad idea, you put no. You are a voting member. You have the right to do either one of those. So this is for Resolution 2, property, Article 6. You vote yes or no. I'm going to consider that one closed at this moment. That is resolution number 2. So everybody made your vote. The next order of business that you have before us is going to be our financial conditions report. You have received your little brochure in the mail, and that will tell you the financial conditions report of the church. I don't have mine in front of me. I did have it somewhere. There it is. Right there it is. There you go. And you have the statement in front of you. It's a pretty good document. We give this to you every single year. So I'm going to ask the chairman of our board of directors, Bob Greiner, who's done a fantastic job, as well as Robert Martindale, to come, and they're going to share with you the financial condition report. And here they go. Come on up here, Brother Bob. Come on up here, Brother Robert. Let us know what's going on.
Greetings, Visalia First family, and welcome to the financial portion of the annual meeting. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Robert Martindale, and I'm going to be presenting the 2019 financial report for Visalia First. These numbers have been audited by our CPA firm, which is Cape & Krause, so they have been verified, and we're good to go on these. So anyway, beginning with the annual report here, I want to talk about the activity statement. Hope you guys all have a copy of that. And essentially, the activity statement is a profit and loss statement like you'd see with any company. So real briefly, in this, we're talking about the income and the expenses. Starting off with the expenses, I want to talk about the givings from 2019. These would be the offerings. So if you were to take the combination of the tithe offering, all-in, missions, and building fund for 2019, you'd come up with $6.9 million. And you compare that with 2018, it was about $7.2 million. So we've got a difference of about $326,000. And this was mainly due to the building campaign ending in 2018 for the most part. So we had a big push in 2018, and that's why the income numbers were a little higher. And also, if you move down, you'll see rental and other income, and that's up by roughly $72,000 in 2019, and that's mainly due to Valley of Life Charter School and the rental fees that we collect on that. Moving down to the expense areas, just want to talk about missions for a minute. In 2019, our missions were $600,000 compared to $482,000 in 2018. Now, keep in mind that it's always been a priority of Visalia First and a goal to increase our outreach, and so we have been doing that with missions both local and abroad. So I think that's something we can all be proud of. Next category would be interest expense. You'll notice that there's a large increase in 2019, roughly about $1 million. This is because both mortgages were fully funded in 2019 for the new sanctuary. So we began our loan payments in January of 2019, and that caused our interest to be as high as it was for the year. Now you also notice in the other expenses we're slightly higher. I think we did a pretty good job of being able to control our expenses for the year. Some of those were not controllable with the interest and whatnot, but overall I think the staff did a good job in maintaining our costs. You'll see our net income before depreciation and amortization and the swap that we had in 2018. It was roughly, that net income number was $670,000. So that was down $1.4 million from 2018. Once again, there's two factors that are involved in here. First of all, you talk about the interest expense, as I pointed out earlier, and then also the building fund campaign having slowed down considerably in 2019. Caused this number to be less than what it typically is. Depreciation of $1.1 million, which is pretty standard. Keep in mind that is a non-cash item. So if you look at net income and loss, you'll see that we had a $460,000 loss in 2019. Now, at first glance, that could appear a little troubling, but once again, as I pointed out, you've got $1.1 million of that is non-cash, being in the depreciation area. So overall, we had $670,000. I'll reiterate that. So that's it on the activity side, which is, as I said, essentially the profit and loss. Now moving over to the balance sheet, you'll see that our cash position in 2019 had gone down by $60,000. Now, considering what our income position was for the year, this is really a very good number. We were able to increase our reserves also by $324,000 to $777,000 in 2019, which is a very good accomplishment. That is something we set out to do, and we were able to achieve that goal. And then as you move down into the liability section, it's the payables and the accruals, mortgage payable. The mortgage payable actually decreased by $470,000. Now, that may seem a little bit odd here, but let me point something out. There are two elements that are tied into this. First of all, we paid principal payments of $979,000 on the new loans for this past year, but we also had a cash injection of about, let me see, what was that? $497,000, which was the loans being fully funded to us, which actually gave us a little bit of cash to work with. So that was really the reasoning behind our cash position being as good as it was for 2019. So that concludes the financial report, but I did want to talk about one other thing real quick that I think is worth noting that I think you all will appreciate. We have something going on right now in 2020 where we are researching a new position to refinance the mortgages that we have on the church. So we're in the process of securing financing that's going to essentially consolidate both loans that we currently have and move those into one loan, which will also give us a considerably lower interest rate. And we're really happy about that, and we're pursuing that pretty heavily. Now, this will put our church in a very good financial position, not only in the short term, but also the medium term and the long term. So we're certainly looking out for the financial well-being of the church, and this is something that I want to encourage everybody to pray diligently about, because it's something that we really need as an organization. It's really going to benefit us going forward. Well, that's it for my presentation. Thanks for joining us.
Greetings, Visalia First. My name is Bob Greiner, and I am the chairman of the Visalia First Assembly Board of Directors. And I want to thank Robert for his excellent financial report to you. And I just wanted to bring you up to date on where the church stands right now in 2020. It's a pretty stressful time with this COVID-19 situation that we're all dealing with. But it's remarkable what God has done. From a revenue standpoint, we're actually ahead of where we were last year at this same time. And I guess all we can do is give God a huge amount of thanks for His faithfulness, but also to you for your generosity and faithfulness. On the expense side, we're actually less than we were last year, and you can imagine that without running the facilities with people, that our costs would be less. Pastor made a commitment to all of the staff and employees of the church that he would continue to keep them on staff. Many of them continue to come in and work from home, but we're continuing to pay the payroll and the benefits, and no one's getting laid off. So we're in good shape there. From an operating standpoint, so far this year we're in the positive. From a cash flow standpoint, we are $50,000 down from where we were at the beginning of the year. We've used $50,000 basically to pay for our debt service. Operationally, we were positive in the cash flow, but then our debt service required us to dip in for $50,000. But as Robert mentioned, we're in the process of refinancing our long-term mortgages, and that will result in a substantial reduction in our cash, the use of cash going forward. So we're grateful for that. So I guess what I would say is that at this point, the church is weathering this storm very well. And again, all thanks to the Lord and to you. So with that, God bless.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Robert. I don't know what I'd do without you guys and the wonderful help that we have over there in the accounting department, Misty and Carmen and Sue Deathridge. God bless all you guys for all the help that you give us. You keep us financially fit. So, hey, our next order of business has to do with our ratification of our slate. You've received the slate in front of you, but I want to read you from the Constitution bylaws, the bylaws, what our slate is all about. So you may be new to our membership. This is how we select board of directors around here. It's not so much a voting process as it is a ratification process. These are the names that we've formulated over the years, people that have met the requirements of the bylaws. And so each year we present you a slate for your approval. So here we go. Constitution and Bylaw Article 2, Section 2, there shall be a minimum of 7 directors serving a 3-year term, 3 of which are elder committee members, following the nomination process per the board committee structure policy found in Policy Governance Manual. A director is eligible to serve 2 consecutive 3-year terms. After serving 2 consecutive terms, a 1-year period must occur before being eligible to serve again. An individual who fills a vacated position, which occurs during the first half of the term for the position vacated, is eligible to serve 1 additional 3-year term without an interruption. An individual who fills a vacated position, which occurs during the second half of the term for the position vacated, is eligible to serve 2 additional 3-year terms without interruption. And you have a slate of directors before you. The ratification of the slate will be as a whole. So let me draw your attention to the slate that you have before you, and you should be seeing a picture of it right now. And it consists of the 2020 Board of Directors, and I'll just make mention of them. Bob Greiner is our chair of our Board of Directors. Sharon Jansma has served as our secretary. She's our corporate secretary for all legal matters. You see this year a new name, Paul Cornice, is being added to the slate this year. Dr. Dave Hummerkaus. You see in each of these names, there will be at the end of each name when their term expires, and they get 2 3-year terms. Dr. Sean Fox, you see at the bottom there, his second term will expire in 2023. A new face you see this time, but he served before, is David Bither. His first term will expire on 2023. And of course, the head of our elder board right now is Daniel Solis. His first term as the board of directors will expire on 2021. So those are the names that you have before us. 2 names have rolled off because they have successfully fulfilled 2 of the 3-year terms. That's Arnie Van Berkel and Steve Jackson. These gentlemen have served very well and have been such a asset to our board of directors. We're going to miss them. We're going to buy both of them a certificate for Taco Bell and thank them for their grateful service. Maybe their reward is going to be better in heaven. So no, all jokes aside, we will bless these 2 gentlemen for their wonderful, wonderful service. So once again, you have a blue ballot in front of you. It's called slate, and if you're in agreement with the 7 names that I've just read to you, then I'm going to ask you to circle yes. And by circling yes, you're voting on the whole 7. It's called a slate. If you're in disagreement, say you don't like one of these individuals or 2 of them, you say, no, I do not want to ratify this as a slate. So simple as that. Circle yes, circle no, and get ready to put that in your self-addressed envelope and return it to the church. And we will, once again, we will have all of those tallied for you, and you'll get the report on all of that the last weekend of April during our services in 2020 here. So there you have it. So, hey, just a couple more points of order here, a little bit of business. You know, every year I get a chance to say a thing or two. Karen and I have been graciously accepted by this congregation to serve you. This is our 12th year. We won't be voted on this year, but we are just coming off of a sabbatical. We both took a great time of rest, and we're so thankful for a body of believers. Let me just say a word about that. Our church body is one of the most gracious group of people I've ever met in my entire life. And I come from the South. People are very, very kind to you there. But when we came to Visalia, we found a little flavor of the South, in great measures, some of the nicest people on the planet, and we count it a privilege to be your pastor. So thank you for allowing us to serve as your pastor. So, once again, I've been pastoring for quite a few years, and I've never had a business meeting online, but maybe this is a trend. Maybe this is a beginning. Maybe we'll do an online business meeting next year. We're constantly trying to find ways to get this new generation engaged, and they're all online. We find that they're not coming to our meetings, so maybe we'll have more support them online. Maybe next year we'll do a business meeting online, annual membership meeting. So who knows? But meetings are important. And as I was thinking about that this morning, I wrote a little page here. You know, I'm a preacher type. I got to talk a lot. So, you know, throughout the Bible, we see the importance of God's people getting together and having meetings. And so for reasons of an immediate nature, sometimes problems arose in the Bible. They had to deal with immediately. And then there were a lot of meetings that we needed to set some things in order for the future of the church here. So the focus of meetings like this is for you and I to get together and to try to hear the voice of God, listen to the plans that God has for the future, and hopefully that we're not just running an organization simply by human means. We beg for divine intervention on a constant basis, and we need that. But meetings all throughout the Bible, let me just show some of them to you. Abraham and Lot, they had to have a meeting. They got too big to hang out together. They had a church split, and Abraham and Lot went their different ways, and there was a lot at stake. The future was at stake. There was a meeting there. Joseph, wow, what a meeting that he had with Pharaoh in the Old Testament. Based on a dream, he went and told old Pharaoh, you need to supply 7 years of food because there's a famine coming. And what a need to have spiritual influence on your board like that. You need people of prayer that can step up on a board and say, hey, I see a famine coming, we better get ready. So Joseph, you know, got the whole nation ready for 7 years. And man, 7 years after that was a famine like no one had ever seen before. Thank God they had a meeting. Nehemiah went to the king Artaxerxes in the country he was serving because the wall was broken down. He had a meeting with the king, and as a result of that meeting, he was given great resources to go and help the work of God. I think a lot of times when you and I get together in meetings, God stirs each of our hearts to do something with our resources to help advance the kingdom and to help to resource the kingdom of God. Jesus, now, here's another meeting. Jesus introduced some pretty heavy stuff at the Last Supper. I mean, the new covenant was being invoked in his blood, and his time of departure was at hand. And man, they didn't even understand what half of that meeting was about. But the Lord's Supper was born, and because of that meeting, you and I celebrate communion every month in our church. So I could go on and on. Acts chapter number 6, the Holy Spirit started moving in supernatural fashions, and the needs of the community got bigger than the move of God that the preachers could handle. They had a meeting, and out of that meeting, the word diakonos was born, deacons. And they said, the men and women of God that spend time sharing the word, we need to stick with it. We don't have time to come out of the prayer and studying of God's word. Let's find people with the gift of serving. And man, what a meeting that we have run the church by for over 2,000 years, because deacons are serving the church. People who love God, just because they're not called to pulpit ministry, they're just as important. That came out of a meeting. And man, Acts 15, and I'm finished with this. Acts 15, they had another meeting. It was crazy. It's the first general council of the church. And in that meeting, they said, Gentiles are getting born again. We've never seen anything like it. We thought this thing was just for the Jewish people. Man, they had a meeting, and it was huge. You and I would not be here today had it not been for that meeting that they had in Acts chapter number 15. Thank God for meetings. So thank God that the people of God can get together collectively and make decisions like that. One of these days, we're all going to be in heaven. And Acts chapter 7 talks about another meeting, and they were all gathered around the throne. There was so many that they couldn't count them. Multitudes upon multitudes upon multitudes of people who have followed God throughout the years, and those people made their way to heaven. And there was a great meeting there. But that was a different meeting, because it was not like any meeting that was done on the earth. They already had their glorified bodies. They're not flesh and blood like we are today. And so I think you and I have got to get used to having different kind of meetings. Right now we're having a meeting online, and we've never done that before. And one of these days, this is going to be old hat, and one of these days we're going to be in heaven having a meeting with glorified bodies. We're going to have brains like we never had before. All of us are going to be about 33 years of age, good looking, smelling good, looking good. I mean, what a meeting. But I simply I say all that because I thank you for allowing us to have this online meeting. I was reading this article, came out in the paper this weekend. It says Coca-Cola will hold its first annual meeting virtually. The first time in 99 years. Since 1921, Coca-Cola's been having annual business meeting where they bring in their stakeholders, and they announced this last week in a newspaper. For the very first time, Coca-Cola is holding a meeting where the board of directors aren't going to be in the room, and they're just going to vote online, just like you and I have. And after that article came out, UPS followed suit, and also Home Depot was following suit. Everybody is moving to meetings online. So I'd like to say that Visalia First was the first to have an annual business meeting online. We probably weren't, but I like to brag about Visalia First a lot, so there you have that. So let's just say this, Visalia First, you're always on the cutting edge. and here we are again. So I just say all that to say thank you for not turning a nose up to this new method, but to help us. Send your ballots in. You have been given a ballot. You have a deadline where you get those ballots in. If you've had any question about what's been going on here, you can you could call someone at the church, call one of our pastors, call one of our staff. There's people that are always willing to help you. And let me finish today by giving you a few remarks about where we've been in 2019. 2019 was a year that we introduced to you the All In initiative. You remember we finished this building, this new worship center, about about 16 months ago. And so 2019 was a year of just sort of us settling down. We had been 9 years, a little over 9 years in a building campaign. And so we had to get our footing. We have built a new building. We have more money going out. We had to really get a handle on a lot of things. So we introduced to you the All In campaign. And you remember that. We all did devotions. We basically had really two initiatives that we were trying to accomplish with this here. The number one goal of the All In campaign was that everybody participate. We were asking for 100% participation, and the second goal was for a 2-year pledge that we would pledge $21 million over a 2-year span of time. Even though our pledges fell short, I admit to you our pledges did fall short, but what is really, really not falling short is participation. I just want to say thank you. I know I'm talking to the choir right now because you guys are members and you're all givers, but boy howdy, we have picked up some donors that hundreds of people are owning their church. So I'm here to report to you the All In campaign was a great success. So many people participating, and right now the church has been closed down for services for over a month now. And because of all of those people that signed up in the All In campaign, we're doing well financially. You heard that from Bob Greiner and Robert Martindale to tell you that. So another thing that we started in 2019 was the restructuring of our staff. I've been heavily burdened over the last couple of years about the younger generation. I think that we have a real challenge among all of our churches around the world. Why are our 20-somethings leaving the church? Why are our 20-somethings not interested in the church? For a couple of years, we have lowered the age of our staff around here. We've got a lot of employees that are in their 20s, and we did that intentionally because we know the future of the church has to be in their hands in order for them to capture the younger generation. And so yes, we've been doing some restructuring. You've seen, you may have heard language like we have a new cabinet around here, and we have leaders over this, leaders over that. That is still in the morphing stage. We are still working on that. Over 2020, you will see us come up with a different paradigm, the way that we operate the church. One of the things that the board of directors have asked me to do is to step out of the day-to-day operations a little bit and to give more time to the Word, give more time to spiritual direction. And I so appreciate that, and I love that about them. But as a result, you have been seeing new faces in the pulpit. You're seeing new faces serving around here, and I promise you, it is getting better every single day. Let me report one other thing to you, maybe two. our community involvement. We are in the business of running a large church. We are in the top 1% of churches in America. And it's very easy, if you're not careful, to get lost in the business because we're a large business. It's very easy to get caught up in the business and doing business, and that's all you do is just do church business. That has never been my heart. That I never want that to be who we are. I talk to our board about that all the time. Guys, we didn't get together just to be a social club and to make sure that we balance the books every month, which we do. We're audited every year by a high-end auditing firm, Capon & Krause, and our books are impeccable. You won't find mistakes in our books. But to me, it's more than that. To me, it's more than having good books. To me, it's more than having a house full of people. To me, it's more than just maybe having bragging rights. I just hate all of that kind of stuff because, and I see a world that is really, really hurting out there. And I would hope over the next 5 years, and it's in my heart, and I will try to impress upon this congregation like never before, is to reach into this community like never before. I want to become a church of a community again. In COVID here, you know, we've had people out and we've been hooking up with so many of our local organizations. You know, we support 77 world missionaries, and we have another 44 local missions that we support. And so when crises hit, we don't go out and reinvent the wheel. We don't start a bunch of new stuff. First thing we do, we go knocking on the doors of the people that are already in the trenches. First thing we did, we went to Visalia Rescue Mission. How can we help? They have 150 beds over there. Do you need more beds? Do you need more resources? The thrift stores had to close down in COVID. We were right there. How can we help? Food Link. I can't say enough about Food Link. They are out giving away food. Matter of fact, again today on our campus, a Food Link truck will pull on the campus, and our volunteers will jump out there, and we will feed between 300 and 400 people will show up. And that's happening every day. And that's the heartbeat of the church. One of the things you saw in your financial statement report is that we gave away $600,000 to missions this past year. That's cool, but my goal is, while I'm pastor, is to give away $1 million. I'd love to see the day that, not just because we're giving money away, no, but because we're reaching into the dark places and we're being a light in a dark place, like Isaiah said. And we have reached our hand in some very, very dark places. Matter of fact, some places I can't even publicly announce. We're building works, and all because of generous people like you who have given to the All In initiative. And we're going to constantly increase our reach into this lost and dying world. I just hurt over what COVID-19 did to our world. And as I see people slipping off into eternity by the minute, people slipping off into eternity. And I still believe that the church is the best hope for the lost and dying in the world. And if you and I could keep that as the forefront, and if you want to know where's our church going over the next few months and years, we're going after the lost. We're going into the dark places. We're going into the prisons. We're already there. We're going more. We're going more. We're going deeper. And you're going to see that to come. And thank you for all of you that have the gift of serving, have the gift of evangelism, that you're jumping on board with us. And another thing, all you people that are gifted with the gift of prayer, Numbers chapter number 19 was the day that 14,700 people died one day. It was a horrible plague, horrible plague. And Moses told Aaron to get the censer and to burn some incense, run to the altar and offer prayers. And when he did, that whole plague stopped. If there's anything you and I as the church can do is pray. And I pleaded with you during the COVID crisis, pray that the virus stops. You and I are people of faith. We tell disease, stop, and it has to stop. So keep on praying, keep on believing, keep on being people of faith. Trust me, church, you and I are the hope of the world. And one day we will all be joined with millions and millions. But until that day, let's you and I do the job that we've been called to do. Lastly, I can't say enough about our social media presence in these days. Under the direction of our communication director, John Leckenby, has just been off the chart. We have so many digital platforms now that I was trying to figure out where we are today as to where we used to be. I pulled out some numbers. The first time that we started counting our digital platforms was in the year 2013. We had 2,780 followers on Facebook in 2013. 2020, we have 7,203 followers on Facebook. In 2013, we had, for a year, we had 14,700 people visit our website online to listen to one of our sermons or what have you. Did you know that in 2019, our online viewers were 58,920? So social media has just plummeted around here. And I hope that you caught up with the times. If you're watching this, you probably did, unless you're watching it by DVD. And if you're watching it by DVD, go get a lesson in getting involved in some social media. We are blitzing every platform possible. We are reaching literally thousands and thousands of people because of our digital platforms. Let me give you one last report because, you know, I like to talk a lot. This is an incredible report. Online, our online presence, we have, we get thousands of people that are watching each of our services, and so every time someone watches a service, we get one person watching. But we've done a little research on that, and on the average, when one person watches one of our services, we have calculated that it's actually 2.3 people per unit. We know some people are watching 4 and 5 in the house. We know some people, one person is maybe watching on their phone. So we have average, we found this average after working some numbers, 2.3 for every hit, every view we get, we have 2.3. I was asking the Lord, I was telling people, I said, I think we can hit 12,000 listeners Easter 2020. Last year in 2019, Easter service, we basically almost hit 7,000 people on campus last Easter. But this Easter, let me give you these numbers. We had 5,812 people logging on to our services. We had multiple services. I think we ended up with 6 or 7. And you multiply that 2.3, and we come up with, guess what? We broke our numbers. I was hoping for 12,000. 13,367 people is estimated watched our Easter services this year. That's not counting we were live as well on Spirit 88.9 on Easter Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. If you can watch that anytime you want to. We're there every Sunday at 11 o'clock. But we had over 2,000. We had right at 2,000 listening there. So we had over 15,000 people listening to Visalia First's message this Easter 2020. So, hey, I think we're winning. Even though we're not together, even though the building is empty, we have found the new normal, and one of these days we will be back together. But right now, God is blessing His church. We're still seeing a lot of people saved, and there's a list backing up of how many are going to be baptized when we get back. I think it's going to be a pretty big baptism. So if you've not signed up and you want to sign up, you ought to sign up to be water baptized. So that concludes my report. That concludes my portion of the pastor's report that I get to say every time. So I want to as we conclude, I want to draw your attention one more time to our brochure here. In the back of this annual report here, you have the names of friends and loved ones of Visalia First that have gone on to be with the Lord since our last annual business meeting. And I would just like to take a moment and pray, reflect. If you will just take that list out and you look at them, you will notice some names. I don't know all of them, but I know a lot of them. And these people represent a lot of broken hearts of moms and dads, cousins, daughters, sons. And I just want us to reflect on that, and then I want to offer prayer. Father, I'm staring at a list of names here that some of them bring tears to my eyes. There's so many great people, board members who have served this church. I ask you to bless their family as a result of them being such servants of the Lord. I see a 16-year-old girl on this list. Father, go touch her mama, touch her daddy, touch her friends, touch all of these that left the earth early in our eyes, and just go wrap your arms around those that are just hurting. I see a fella here, Lord, I know how he's hurting. Go bless him, Jesus. Holy Spirit, I send you to comfort these family members, and I know you will, you always have, and just bless them. Bless them, bless them, bless them, bless them in Jesus' mighty name. Thank you, Lord. May they all receive strength, and may you get all the glory from it. In Jesus' name. So, there you have it. Hey, again, thank you for allowing us to be your pastors. Thank you for allowing us to do what we do. It's adjournment time, and I'm going to ask, is there a motion to adjourn? So there's a couple of cameramen standing in front of me, and so one of you that are members, you're going to have to say a motion to adjourn. Dave Bourgeon has said that we have a motion to adjourn, and it has to be seconded, so I'd have a second one that as a member you have to say second to a motion to adjourn. It has been seconded by Marcia Leckenby, and all those in favor said aye. Everybody said aye. So you stand adjourned. So may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face shine upon you. May the Lord raise His countenance upon you all and be gracious to you. Until we get together again, I want you to go and live with a high expectation. If God is for us, Who can be against you? God bless you.